Hey everybody, how's it going? Like Butter here, and today I got a division video that is super important regarding information about 1.3 weapon balancing. Now, I said in a recent video, and most of you guys who follow the division know that they are trying to balance out weapons a little bit more in 1.3, as most of you have seen in the Dark Zone and even outside of the Dark Zone. Assault rifles, LMGs, and shotguns have kind of become less and less useful as time goes on with how strong SMGs are. So I want to talk about these buffs and nerfs that they're going to be doing to the weapons, although I have to say some of you may think it's a nerf, but it's actually possibly a buff. So let's talk about the changes. So as most of you guys know, before any of these changes, SMGs would get a steady crit chance with every single weapon. It would be a passive talent at the top of your attributes, and it would be anywhere between 21 and 25.5%. Now, that is actually getting changed. The only other weapon that had any type of statistic like this, and you know, a passive statistic, was sniper rifles or marksman rifles, which have a steady headshot damage. That is not being changed, which makes me super happy because I've been working on this sniper build here for a while. So snipers and marksman rifles are, you know, they're basically the same thing, are not getting touched whatsoever. So you do not have to worry about any changes on the bolt actions or the semi-automatic sniper rifles. They're all going to stay the same. However, SMGs are being changed. They are taking the crit chance away from the SMG passive and giving it crit hit damage. Now, I saw in some of the videos that a lot of the YouTubers and streamers that went to E3 were making. I'll put links in the description so you guys can go see where the source of this information is coming from. I obviously didn't make it to E3, which kind of sucked, but I'm happy they brought home a lot of information for us YouTubers and streamers who didn't get to go, you know, some information to talk about and some early stuff to maybe get our opinions in before they make any major, you know, rational changes. So this is coming out on the 28th, which is 13 days from now for Xbox One and PC users, and it will be coming out on August 2nd for PS4 users. Now, some of you guys may be bummed out that have, you know, PS4, but just to let you guys know that Underground DLC in 1.3 is basically the same thing. However, you will not unlock Underground if you're a PS4 user. However, you will get the weapon changes and all that other stuff, so that's really good. So you guys won't be on like an older, you know, update where you're trying to build, you know, stupid things for a month when you know things are going to get changed. Now you guys can, you know, stay up and watch all of these, you know, new build videos and be a part of that. I also think in 1.3 you're getting the new weapons and stuff like that. I don't think that they're keeping that exclusive to Underground. I think the only thing that PS4 users aren't getting is that Underground expansion. So, you know, some of you guys may be pretty happy about that. This is gonna, you know, happen to everyone on the 28th. So, anyways, now, some of you guys may think that this is a massive, massive nerf to SMGs, which they did say that they weren't going to be nerfing anything, only buffing stuff. How do I say this? With the ability to hit max crit chance so easily on SMGs, I actually don't think that this is a nerf, because crit chance has a cap, whereas crit hit damage, I believe, does not. So you're going to be able to stack up tons of crit hit damage if you guys run 3 strikers. 3 strikers, 2 sentry, and savage gloves is going to be one of the strongest builds if you want to use SMGs, because you are going to be getting tons of crit hit damage. And I think like anywhere between 35 and 40% crit hit chance is more than enough, because you got to remember, if you have any type of decent stats, you're going to be getting around 20% crit chance when you pulse. So if you're a pulse user like myself, you only want anywhere between 35 and 40% crit chance, and that's going to be really easy to do. I actually jotted down some numbers here. So if you have savage gloves, you know, 204 savage gloves, you're getting 14% crit chance on enemies out of cover, which most of the time people are going to be out of cover in open, you know, gunfights. It's just kind of how the meta is right now. So you can get also 6% on top of that, or 5.5, 6%, something like that. So essentially, if you have decent Savage gloves, you're going to be getting 20% crit chance just on the gloves. You'll also be getting 7.5% on the red dot that you're using. You should be using on your red dot crit hit chance or crit chance, and also headshot damage. I think it's like 22.5% headshot damage, the best one you can get. I think it's the RTS red dot site. I don't know. You can get crit chance on a lot of your on your scopes, so be sure to take control and make sure that you're paying attention to that, because that's going to be really important. That extra 7.5% is more important than it ever was at this point in time. So you can also get 5% on your mask. So that brings us up towards like the 35%. And you can also, if you have Fierce in the third slot on an SMG, that'll be super helpful. Or Vicious. Vicious is going to give you 13.5% extra crit chance when you're at full health. That's super helpful as well if you're running overheal and you got like a tactician in your group. That's going to be awesome because he's going to keep you, full health most of the time. And you can also do crit chance mods if you want. Now, crit chance mods obviously aren't the best, but if you're maxed out on armor and you have a healthy, stamina amount, and you don't really need, a healthy health amount, and you don't really need anything else, these crit chance mods might come in handy. You think about it, if you have 3 crit chance mods, that's an extra 4.5% crit chance, which might help you out quite a bit. So crit chance is going to be much more of a valuable stat that you're going to be looking for with these SMG builds. So I don't necessarily think that SMGs got nerfed because of how easy it was to hit the crit chance cap. And I think this extra up to 50% crit hit damage passive on an SMG is going to be huge. Like, that extra damage is going to be insane, especially if you're running Pulse and you can hit that 60% crit chance max and you can output large amounts of damage in such a short amount of time. So I think that is going to be really, really good, and I think SMGs are still going to be very viable. I made a joke last night on Twitter saying deconstruct your SMGs. Obviously not, right? Like, they're obviously going to be pretty good. Now, if they only gave us like 25% crit hit damage, that would be kind of bad. But a lot of people wanted to see ARs getting the crit hit damage, but it looks like, I think we can all agree, as a player of the division or anyone that's ever played the game, getting 25% crit chance as a passive ability on a weapon is a little ridiculous. That's just too much, especially because crit hit chance and crit hit damage are really the only way to output large amounts of damage at this point. So that's that change. The assault rifles are getting a talent that they didn't have before, which I'm a little disappointed in, okay? You're going to have anywhere between 20 to 25% enemy armor damage. Now, as most of you guys know, the destructive talent, which does a similar thing, it does like 18% enemy armor damage. This is only against PvE targets. Now, when I used an assault rifle, I did notice that it was kind of difficult to kill NPCs with the ARs because of the low amount of crit that you're going to have. However, now that SMGs don't have crit chance, ARs, you're going to have the same chance to get that crit chance on ARs than you will from SMGs. However, SMGs are still going to be better than ARs because ARs are only going to be helpful in PvE. And as most of you guys know, I'm mostly a PvP player, so this isn't big enough for me. I personally think that enemy armor damage should also affect agents, however, in a smaller percentage. So say, for example, 25% enemy armor damage against NPCs is fine, but maybe like 1/5 of that should be applied to PvP. Another idea that I had that I think would be super awesome is, how there's like health bars on top of NPCs, and that's how you're going to be doing your enemy armor damage when you're hitting them when their armor's up. Well, I really think that players should have an armor bar. I really, really do, and I think it would be so good for the game. So when you're aiming at somebody, and you can see basically their health, and then you can see like the overheal. I think above that, or if they cut the health bar in half and kind of made it so that armor was on the bottom and health was on top, I think that would be so good, because I think armor shred should be a thing. and it's gonna make for a lot better builds, and it's gonna kill, like, this tank meta is so frustrating, and I think anyone who PvPs in the Dark Zone can relate to running into these groups who are running tankticians, and they're just impossible to kill. And there's nothing more boring, not only for the player, but a viewer of my channel and people who are watching my streams that see, like, this fight last 20 minutes and nobody dies, and I'm not even a tank, and I'm still not taking damage because they are building straight toughness and are never gonna die. Like, I think Marco put out a build where you got like 600k toughness with a tanktician build, and you're just never gonna fucking die. You're just never gonna die, and that's just how it is. So I was really hoping that they would add some sort of PvP armor penetration in this game, and I think it would be really good. So for example, for this health bar, say, you know, you have 75% mitigation, your bar is gonna be right underneath your health, and then as you get your armor shredded, your bar is gonna go down and down and down until you're out of combat, and then it will go back up. And I think this armor bar would be such a huge help and so much better for like armor penetration builds and being able to build around armor, because armor is the biggest stat in this game, right? Every single piece of gear has armor on it. Everything, whether it's your gloves, your pads, your chest piece, your mask, anything is going to have a base armor. And then sometimes it even has an attribute, or most of the time it has an attribute that gives you more armor on top of the base armor. So how is there that there is a stat that's on every single piece of gear, however there's no counter to that? There should 100% be PvP armor penetration or armor piercing in this game, even if it's just a small amount where it drops someone's mitigation from like 75% down to like 68 or 70%, will make such a huge difference. Also, healing is such a huge amount of this game. I really think it would be beneficial that they changed the incendiary rounds or added something else in the game that instead of setting you on fire and being super annoying, I think that it should reduce the amount, it should like mark you and then reduce the amount of healing that character can get for like 5 to 10 seconds. And there just needs to be something that counters the triage and the constant healing and the tankiness and smart cover and all this stuff, because what's happening is it looks like they're leveling out weapons, but they're leveling them out in a weird way where it seems like people aren't getting stronger. Defense is only getting stronger, and it's only going to be more stronger with this reduction of crit chance on the SMGs, I think. But we'll have to wait and see. So next is LMGs, which LMGs did get a buff for both PvP and PvE. 30% extra damage to enemies out of cover. So it's much like, you know, the passive on Savage Gloves, where you get a 14% higher crit chance on targets out of cover. This is giving you 30% extra damage to enemies out of cover, which I still don't think is going to be a huge deal. 30% extra damage seems like a lot, but if you're taking into consideration how we don't have armor pen and they have 75% mitigation, you're only getting, what, 5 or 6% damage extra on an LMG, which shoots super slow, has a long clip, and does no damage. So I don't think this is going to make a big deal. Maybe you'll notice something like some big differences in PvE, but in PvP, LMGs, in my opinion, are still not going to be viable, just because, like I said, there is no armor penetration. It's so easy for people to get capped out on armor in the 201 bracket because of all the 240 pieces that drop, and they don't need to nerf the drops. They need to just make it so that things have counters, like the shock turret doesn't really have a counter, like an actual counter right now. I think they should add like a pulse or something that removes status effects. There needs to be something better. Like, the healing station is nice in PvE in some situations, but it's not a viable pick considering it only counters certain things, you know what I mean? Like, whereas a shock turret can be used for PvP or PvE in many situations, the healing station or the immunizer is only going to be helpful in certain situations and not in all situations. So yeah, I definitely think that they need to have a harder counter, especially with the new Firecrest gear set that's coming out that gives you 3 extra incendiary bullets, which is making me cringe because I think what people are going to do is they're going to equip 2 of those and then get 3 extra incendiary bullets and then take the gear off. So really what they're doing is they're essentially adding more incendiary bullets and giving you more of an incentive to use them. And although I think incendiary bullets are super counterable if you're using like a, you know, one of the rehabilitation or not rehabilitation, sorry, rejuvenated masks, I couldn't think of the word, or, you know, popping ultimate and stuff like that, but them encouraging more use of incendiary bullets is just gonna make people really angry. I don't think incendiary bullets, when they set you on fire, I don't think you should have to, like, I think you should have to pat yourself down, but I think you should be able to, like, blindly fire while you're on fire, because I think the fact that you really can't do anything is kind of weird. I don't know, man. I don't think that these changes are relatively great, but that's for another video. We'll talk about the gear sets in another video. Some of the gear sets look pretty awesome, by the way. So the last thing is shotguns, which once again are not getting buffed for PvP. You are going to get anywhere between 180 to like 220% stagger. This is only to PvE targets. Now, what I think they should do instead of doing this, and if you don't know what stagger is, basically you see it. You'll see it in my in this gameplay here. When I'm outputting a lot of damage with an SMG, or I hit like a headshot with a crit, you have a chance on every weapon to stagger PvE targets where they will like drop their grenade, or they'll kind of like fall backwards and kind of flinch, so that you can hit your next shot pretty easily. That's basically what stagger is. So you're getting a lot more of that when you're using a shotgun. So, you know, fighting PvE targets like NPCs and maybe even bosses up close, it's going to be nice to have that person with the shotgun that can kind of stagger Rorik or one of the other big cleaners that are about to clean everyone's asshole. You can kind of stagger them a little bit and everyone can focus them, which will be nice. However, I do think that shotguns should have some sort of stagger in PvP. Now, I know you may think that this is kind of, it sounds OP, but especially on PC, you see people all the time kind of running in circles, and it's just kind of a circus during these gunfights, because there's, especially with mouse and keyboard, you can move so fast and you can change direction so fast that people are kind of just like going left, right, you know, just strafing everywhere. I think having someone with a shotgun in your game would be super helpful. I think that, you know, every time you hit someone with a shotgun, it should have a small percentage chance to slow them. Now, I've never been a fan of stopping power in any game, like Counter-Strike, Gears of War, you name it. All those games, although I know why it's present, would just always annoy me. But I think if somebody is running at someone that has a shotgun and they get shot point blank with a shotgun, they should get slowed, even if it's a small percentage of a slow, even for just a split second. I think it will make gunfights a lot more fair, so that you don't have people, especially tancticians, running in and out of triage. Slowing their movement a little bit would be super helpful in fights. That way you wouldn't have this circus event where people are just running around in a bunch of different directions and no one knows what the hell is going on. And I don't know if you guys know this, but whenever there's like anywhere between 10 to 15 people in one spot of the map, like 90% of the bullets just don't register. So most of the time that, you know, the entire server is shooting like tancticians who are just running around in circles, a huge reason why they're not taking damage is not because of triage or because of how tanky they are. It's because when there's too much like traffic on one part of the server, like nothing registers. And I really think this game being one of Ubisoft's biggest launches, that they really need to up the servers, man. They need to, especially if you're having servers where there's only 24 people on a server, they need to make the servers a little bit stronger so that these shots can start registering and we can start putting these tancticians down a lot faster. Like whether it's just doubling the amount of ticks that it has or something. I don't know what they're gonna do. But anyways, those are the changes, guys. So shotguns and ARs aren't changing at all. SMGs are getting crit damage instead of crit chance. And the LMGs are getting 30% extra damage to enemies out of cover, which I said, you know, even if they are out of cover, you know, that's only going to be an extra 6% or something like that. I don't know. I suck at math. let's see, 75. So 30%, if you're only taking 75% of 30% extra damage, yeah, you're only taking like 6%. Right? Or 5%. No, 7%. 6.5%. I don't know, something like that. I've been out of school for a long time and my brain hurts. Maybe someone will leave me a comment in the comment section below on how much it is, but that's why like a lot of people like are saying reckless is terrible, because you're taking 10% extra damage, but realistically, if you think about it, you're only taking 2.5% extra damage. Anyways, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to drop the video a like. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I always like having a nice discussion, and I will talk to you guys in the next one. Take care, everybody.